Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. Uh, Warm welcome to our first session, which is SAPUI5 for ABAPers. And as always, we we saw the God is giving us some troubles, which is okay. So we'll sail through. I hope. Can somebody in chat confirm if I sound okay and all? Because I'm getting some dropped messages and all. So let's see. So anyway, so we have. So how does we go around this SAPI for Bapper? So before I go around, I would like to spend the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes in my own in our community things, and then we will start doing the code and all. So I think I see Rakesh, Prasant, Priya, Mohammed, Inderpreet, Vikram, Gaurav, Sanjay. Hello everyone. So basically intention is that we have already understood HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Now we will be understanding client side. How do we use JavaScript on client side? But yesterday I was thinking that maybe because we have started with client side, why can't I cover also the server side? But then I thought, it's tough to go for multiple live streams because live streams are always not pretty. They always have issues. So maybe I'm just thinking of recording Node.js for Bappers and maybe premiering those videos, and we can watch them together and then learn together. So that's a bit about what I'm thinking to do. But right now, coming back to SAP UI5, right? So in what we are planning to do is after every sessions we'll have like 40-minute interaction with you, and then after 40 minutes we will be sending an email with the what is we call it as an assignment, which primarily involves around what we have done with some additional features. So this is I think important for you is just first watch it, understand things, and then do it. Without doing, you won't understand it. So that is the first thing how we intend to do, and we'll be covering starting from pretty basic, because I've seen ABAPers jumping from ABAP to SAP 5 without understanding the basics, and then of course disaster happen, but which is okay. So we will be starting slowly. Keep in mind that not everyone is experienced. Somebody has started just now, so he need to understand everything, and then slowly we'll move towards super complex topics of developing custom controls, enhancing standard apps, hooks, and all those things. Okay, so so I'll take one more minute. As it is important that you join our Discord server, because that is where our all interactions, because these 40 minutes are not enough to clarify everyone's doubt. You can ask your questions regarding any live streams in this channel, right? If you have any topic for the previous streams, you go ahead and ask, and people are there to help you out. It's not me, it's everyone helping each other out, and we are like mm, uh, perfectly fine with it. And basically, because there are people, we have our group is now close to 150 people, and we are like a group of some learners, some experienced people. It's a healthy group, so together learning is a fun. So request to everyone, please join this Discord group, right? And just to let you know, we are reached around 750 plus members on Telegram, which is good. And let me close these also, because then sometimes it becomes a distraction, right? Quick Discord, where is Telegram? Quit Telegram. And then we have also, because we wanted to reach out to everyone, so we have kept everywhere. One second. So we have kept everywhere, whatever social platforms are there, we wanted to reach out to every people, every community member. We wanted to learn, help them. So we are on Facebook, around 180 people, and similarly on technology enthusiasts also. The same group is on LinkedIn, and where also we have around 180 plus members. So request you to join these two channels, these two groups, or the other ones also on Telegram and the Discord one. So now we have already spent too much time. Let me just quickly jump to what we intend to cover in this session. So probably this is because it's our first session. So what we will do is we will have, it's more of a warm-up session. We will understand what to find where, because there is tons of information. Where shall we go, what shall we do, right? So we will look around that. And then, because SAPUI5 uses XML and JSON, so we will have a 20,000 feet view of understanding of what it is, because we will be using it and it makes sense to understand it, right? And then we will start slowly with what is bootstrapping, MVC and all, right? So I request everyone to bookmark this site, right? This is our single source of truth, SAPUI5.hanaondemand.com, and let's spend next 5 minutes here because it is very important. So simply because this is where you will sometimes get confused also, but this is where if you feel, make yourself comfortable, trust me, you'll never ever have a doubt. So you click there, right? So there are 5 tabs you see. So and this is what we are also referring in our sessions. Okay, whatever we are using, this is the motivation, this is what is guiding us to create these sessions. So this documentation is, you can look through how do you develop and what is data binding, what is navigation. There are different concepts explained beautifully. Okay, I will also try to explain in our own ABAPer flavor, right? So you can go through them, it's awesome. And then I come to here. So for example, when we were doing our module pool and all, there were different elements, input, drop down and all. So here also in SAPUI5, it is a front end client side library framework, whatever you call it. So there are different elements and you want to know how does it look, right? So for example, I want to see how does an input element looks like. So what you do is just click here, go to input, and there are different samples. For example, let's see, this is how the first one looks like. And if I say A, it search all thing, right? Another good thing about this is you can go here, you can see the sample code, right? So you can download it also and you can import it into your web ID, right? So this is the beauty of this samples, and trust me, you will always be here because I've been referring it all the time. So that is the first one. So in case you want a calendar, in case for example, let's see, do we have a calendar? Yes, we already have a calendar. SAPUI5 already provide us with a calendar. And how does it look like? Let's just go inside. Oh, this is our basic one, right? And if you want single interval selection, you click this, then you can select an interval also. So there are different samples, right? And you can look at the code also. In case you want to look at the code, you again click here, right, and show the code, download it. So I hope this sample tab is clear. Why do we use it? Number 2, demo app. So number 2 is demo app. It is like, you will see here all the different kinds of apps which you can build, right? And there are sample codes also. If you see here, tutorials with code, and for example, let's look at browse orders. So browse orders is nothing but it loads this SAPUI5 app. It's beautiful, right? And it also is a flexible column layout. You click on it, it gives the order detail. So there are, what you see here is the samples also. Okay, the demo apps, it has all the running apps which you can use. Now I come back to again to samples and I go to input. Now if I go here, you will see here something like API reference scp.m.input. So this API reference is referring to this tab. Now let's spend some time in understanding how these different things are structured. For example, the front end has different controls: input, input, drop down, calendar, radio button, checkboxes. These all SAP has grouped them into a different control libraries. So these controls are grouped into different libraries. For example, layout is a separate library, chatting is a separate library. These different controls are different libraries. So that is why you see this sap.m.n.input is a library which will have different controls. What controls? Let's click on it. It goes to this, right? And let me go to basic one. So this is a API reference. So all these you see here, main control, layout, these are different libraries which have different control. Let's look at this scp.m, which is main control, right? And it all has action, avatar, you see this different thing, button, input, right? So it basically is like a package. In ABAP we have a package which is a group of programs. So this SAP.m namespace is like a package which contains different controls. Okay, so now for example, if I go to button, all right, now these buttons have, you see these different things, right? So if you remember in ABAP we had our on this, what do we call, module pool, where you used to have add input buttons, input text box, and when you double click it, it shows its properties, which were like text, what do you want the text to be, what if the text changes, what do you want. So the same way we have it here. For example, we have a property, the different properties, right? For example, if for this button, if you want to modify the text, this is what you need to do. You need to fill this property. We'll look at this. I'm just trying to give you a very high level view. Now these controls can have a controls inside also. So that is what they call it as aggregations. It can have, for example, there's a panel can have input element, button, and also those are aggregations. So if you destroy a panel, the whole everything get destroyed. Association is like, this panel is linked to another panel, but it's not a child. It will not destroy if you destroy one thing. Events is like, you click a button, what will happen, and then there are different methods, right? And if you look at this all, this is nothing but a JavaScript object. Nothing, it's a JavaScript object. So for example, if I look at attach press, you will clearly see these are all a function with these parameters. There is a callback also, so which we have covered. So that is why I always wanted you to first understand SAP JavaScript and then here. Okay, so don't get bogged down by this complex thing. It took me around many years to actually get comfortable with it. You will also get comfortable, trust me. So for now, primarily you understand that, okay, if I need to go and find some control, I'll go to samples, look at the code and do it. Demo apps I'll find here, documentation I want to read, I'll read here. API reference you already know now at a very high level. Tools is like, you have SAP Web ID, themes and all, right? Even in case you want to add icons, you can then look at Icon Explorer, right? And it can basically tell you what all icons are available in SAP, right? UI5, and if you click that, it will tell you how do I use it and how it will look like. Okay, so now at least we know that this is the place where everything will happen. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, is what is XML and what is JSON. So the second one is, which I have added here, is that libraries and control is clear, APIs I showed you, examples, documentation and all. Let's try to understand at a very high level what is JSON and what is XML. So I just press back. It is our live server running. So if I click on this XML, so this is an XML. So let's just spend 1 minute here so that you understand how do we declare it. So XML is one of the way of, of how do you transmit your data, right? So basically it contains different tags. So you must be thinking, Nabit, we have done HTML also contains tags. Yes, but HTML is something which structures your data onto the screen, but this thing, it doesn't. It's data without that screen element to it. So for example, there is a my PO is a tag. Inside it you have different PO. Inside it you have different attributes. Inside it you have different elements. For example, one PO has an element works, bookers, very simple, nothing fancy. This thing is called it as an attribute. So how do you basically add properties? This is nothing but you add properties to tag, which is attributes. Like you must have seen in your HTML tags, you can add a class, you can add style. So in the same way we can have it here, but it is front end, it is data structure data without front end. Okay, so this is one of the way. Of course it can validate also that, okay, I want ID always to be there. So for that there is a concept of XSD and DDD, which is out of the scope. I think for you it is important to understand what is XML. It is like a group of tags along with their attributes, and there are elements. I hope it is clear. Now JSON, I think JSON will sound similar, it will look familiar to you, because JSON is JavaScript object notation, and this is nothing but, if you look at this curly braces, this is an object, right, which has these 4 fields, and there is one object, two object, three object inside an array, right? So this is how you uh, basically structure your data. So this is one of the way of structuring it, right? And another way is XML, right? So I hope you are now understood why I wanted to you to know this is that is also important is because the SAPUI5 applications we will be using views which are of XML type. So that is why it is important for you to understand the structure of tags, the concept of attributes, and the data we will be using is a JSON one, right? So we'll be using different things also, but JSON is also one of the prominent one. Okay, so this is overall at a very high level. We are trying to understand what JSON is and XML is. Okay, now we understand the story. I think enough of my explanation and all. Let's straight away go to our web IDE, right? So now let's spend 1 minute here because I hope you have all configured your web IDE, and let's try to understand what exists where. Okay, so this is normally your workspace where you create your applications, right? And this is for database, and the storyboard we'll look at once we have certain views, because and then it will show those views very nicely. Database explorer is primarily, this is a full stack web IDE, so you can use it with the HTI. Nishant has a question: do we need to learn JSON or XML, or is it auto converted to this form? We will need to learn, we will need to understand the structure, not at a very high level. Like the way I explained you, it is more than enough. At least when you will see, when you will develop your XML view, you will understand. Rest we will learn while we'll do it. Okay, so now this is a preferences. So for example, I want the code check to run when I press save. I don't want whenever I change anything it runs, because I'm typing and there can be errors. So that's why I have this preference. Editor you can change. You have different themes. Somebody will like night theme, so you can have night. Somebody will like, for example, I don't know why, but I like to have it white one, right? And then you can font size, different things you can play with. CDS is for when you develop your CDS services, it is just a checkboxes for what to do and save. Data preview, these are the different options which you normally have. And then if you go into the right hand side, this is like a problem, this is like a console log. The moment you build something, you run something, this will run. In case your code has any problems, those will be shown on this space: errors, warning, infos. And then you can run your console like we run in there. And this is more towards search, right? And GitHub, basically integration with Git and debugging. So primarily what we will be doing is, slowly as we build our app, we will be exploring these features also. So now all I will do is in our workspace, and I already have a backup app also, because you don't know when things break up, right? So I'll say let's have our first app. Okay, you just provide the first app name. I could have used this new file from template, new project from template, but for beginners like us who needs to understand everything, it makes sense to not use a template, because then there are too many things and I want to build them from scratch so that you understand what is going done or being where, right? And let's create a file inside it which is index.html, right? And so this index.html, let me first explain you, I forgot what do we want to build. So in this next 1 to 2 sessions or your assignments, we will be making a purchase order report. Everyone in ABAP has done it. Purchase order delay report, purchase order workflow status report, and all. We will be making it in SAPUI5, right? So we'll have a set of input fields, right? And then we will have, once you click on those input fields, we will search the data and display the output in a table, in a list. Okay, and then basically first we will integrate the data which is being supplied. If you must have a question that do we need a gateway ABAP services, no, as of now I don't need it. All we will be using is a local JSON file, JSON data. Then from JSON we will move to Northwind, as one of our friend Gaurav like to have explore North data, so we'll move towards North data, and then we will move towards ABAPer data. So intention is that in next 5 to 10 sessions we'll make one a reporting app, list app, and another a typical CRUD app. When I say CRUD means create, update, delete, and read, right? So whatever is the full form. So we'll be starting from basic list and then move towards CRUD, and we'll explore all the features. When I say all, means mostly which are used by most of the projects, right? So this, I believe every one of you, since you have covered HTML, you understand. Nothing fancy. Let me make this size a bit big, right? So I hope now it is clear. A simple title and a purchase order report. I just press save, and unfortunately severe runtime error. We need to this. Let's do something. You may need to lose this. Okay, let's let it reload. If anyone has any question, feel free to ask me. So let's just run this. So for running, I forgot to explain you, this is where you need to click, or you can have let's now have a different view. Maybe let me bring it here, and let me bring this here, right? So that you see it very clearly of how does the output looks like. Okay, nothing fancy. All of you understand now because you have done the prerequisite. The title is this, and okay, so the title is this, and there is a division which I have added, div, which is purchase order report, right? Nothing fancy, right? Now you must be thinking that you can add colors to it, CSS. Okay, one question is from Alok, which is, can we use ES5 instead of Northwind data service? Of course, Alok, very good point. ES5 you can use, correct, and we can use anyone. It is a any API. All you need is an API. ES5 you can use definitely. So now we have this HTML. We can add our CSS. So Nabit, where is SAPUI5? Right? Where is it? So let's bring our SAPUI5 into the picture, right? And let me get SAPUI5 here. So now this is nothing but a script tab, very similar to how do we used to load our JavaScript libraries. And then all I did is I have provided a name, right? That okay, this is where the file is located. It is, don't worry, it is a very simple JS file only. It is just that it's too big of controls and all. And then I have the theme also. These are parameters. I'm saying okay, the SAP UI5 build providers inbuilt themes. For example, this is one. There are different, we'll see. And then I want that the moment this application load, I want this library. You remember we saw this library here, sap.m, where we had different input and all those things, right? And then I just say that okay, load it asynchronously, because why? We are JavaScript people, we love to do our things asynchronously. Screen shall not hang, and this is very important. But before I go there, let's just see what happens, then I will explain you these two part also. So I just press save. I'll bring in this auto lid. Nothing fancy has happened, right? Only thing is, you see this has changed. This is now a bit of a it has become a bit better, right? And in fact, let me bring in the some more change. Let's change the theme so that you understand. So this is a high contrast black theme. So people who are basically fan of the black stuff, right? We will bring those things. Okay, 1 second, because it is not able to find our index.js. Let me create that also, because then you will see everything getting loaded. Index.js, and let's do an alert. Okay, and if I just say save is done, alert. Okay, so now Let me load this. Oh, 1 second. So let me change it. This one is not available, so just say interest. Okay, so basically I don't know why the theme is not working. I'll check it what is the problem, but I think give me one, it will work anyways. So moving on. So now we have defined the theme. Ideally I would have expected this to become dark, right? It hasn't, might be because I don't have that control, which I will add soon. Okay, and the reason is why it did not happen is because of this. Now it will happen. See, so now let me try to explain. This is a bit dark and we cannot see all things, and I will just revert it back. Now let me try to explain the things. So now first of all, we are saying that we want to load this library from this URL. You can have it locally also. There are different ways of loading this library. I'm using a URL. You can have this also has inbuilt also the server, so you can give the path also local one. Then I'm saying I need this theme, right? And then I am saying I want this library, right? And then I'm saying that load it asynchronously, which is good. And let's add something here. So I say purchase order report. Okay, so now what is this? This is very important. Okay, so what I see is I tell this SAPUI5 explicitly that this index.html, this is like a namespace. So this location of index.html I can refer by search.po. This is to the current folder. So where this index.html is, the same place you will have, I can use this. So search, whenever I use this namespace of search.po, it refers to my index.html location. Okay, and then I want that whenever this thing loads, I want a module to be loaded. Okay, where is this search/po? It is the same. Once you have to give a path of the module, you have to use this /. So which is nothing but index.html. Okay, inside this folder only, right? Single dot means inside this folder, double dot means outside this folder before that. Okay, and now I ignore the .js, because this is how the syntax is. All I need to do is just provide the file name, which is index. So this index.js is nothing but a module. Okay, and how I am loading is by providing it the path search/po, which is nothing but /, which is current folder index.html, where it lies. Inside it I have this file. Okay, so Prashant has a question, which is how you got that script part. So basically, Prashant, if you remember in Java, I hope you're talking about this one. This is like, once you have to load any library, you can give this as a source, right? So source can have a path to that place. It can be here in this file, or it can be a content delivery network, which is like it is hosted over internet, right? So I've given that path for simplicity, and this is more important, guys. Rather than this is more important, that you need to understand that my index.html refers to current folder, and this namespace refers to that. And if I have to load any module, you have to use, in place of dots, /, this one search/po, and then you have to provide the file name, which is index.js. Now let's try to basically make it dark, because one thing which I did not like, which did not happen, was it did not become dark. It became dark, but since I have removed the text, I could not see the text. So now that you will see, the text will automatically be seen. You see this? Forget about alert as of now. So this background dark has changed because of these things. Okay, and this now why I wanted you guys to learn this CSS. This is why that SAPUI5 bring in itself its own theming. So this class is nothing but SAPUI5 body, and ID is content. Okay, so if I go there and let me try to see this, right? So it has a class SAPUI body. So if you look now here, SAPUI body, dot body, background color is black, image none, cover and all. And this is a standard library by SAPUI5. It is loaded by the, once I load this, the whole framework, it loads the accompanying library also. For example, this class will do background attachment fix, this class will change the color and all, right? So you can explore this, but intention is to let you know that okay, now we have our library being loaded, but how do we know it is being loaded? So we need to now look into index.html. Now this is where we shall spend bit of a time to understand. So when I said load this module, so SAP UI define is a class which helps us in defining these modules. So every controller file, JavaScript file, whichever you will see, right? So that will have this SAP UI define, right? And here as of now what we pass to it is a this module name. We can maintain a module name here, something hello or something. This is a module name, we can refer that, or we can give the path like we'd give here. So we loaded this module by the path, right? And then inside it, now the question is that as of now it is nothing. So once we say, so let's forget about this array as of now. All I'm saying right now is that load this module. Once this module is loaded, you show this alert. Till now just remember this, don't go into anything. It is like let's bring in ABAP, then it will be more easy. So it's like a PBO, right? So in your module pool you have a screen in which have PBO and PI. So in PBO you have defined a module, in a module in which you have written that okay, display some message, alert I'm loaded. So this is like a PBO kind of a thing. Of course the same thing will act as a PI because it will contain the methods which our front end will call. So for the time being, just keep in mind this thing will is getting called because I have loaded it explicitly, right? So now if I just refresh, that is why you see this pop up, I am loaded. Okay, so now we have it loaded, right? But you know, this thing is more likely doesn't, let's do something with it. It's just an alert. What is an alert? Maybe what I want is that once you load it, right, you, rather than you know hard coding it here, these purchase order report and all, I want it to be, you know, use SAP UI5 controls. Okay, so how do I do it? So what we will do is basically I want to display a text. Let's first go to text. I search here. This is how normally I approach a problem. So I go here and I see a text and I go here, text control, simple one I need. Yes, yeah, this text. I just want this not to be hard coded in that purchase order report. I want to use SAP UI5 controls, right? Because this I have hard coded it here. I don't want this. I want to use SAP UI5 controls, right? So now, which is clear, okay? So this is under what? sap.m.text, right? So now let's open this also. Okay, sap.m.text. Let's go to properties, and properties has a text. Wow. So if I somehow use this module and assign the property value, then it shall show, right? It shall show, correct? So what I do is, instead of, I say that this is how you refer to a module. I want to load this class sap.m.text. So you define your dependency inside this array, because you will need text, you might need a button. So in case you need a button, so for that also you can have sap.m.button, right? And this thing always confused me. For some it is sap/m.button, for some it is sap/ui5/ something. Why it is this? That is where this class helped me, sap/m.text, right? And in case, for example, if I check layout, right, and then in case I need to use these control form, so I need to say sap/replace dot with slash, right? Whatever control you want to use, whatever module you want to use, you need to define it as a dependency, right? That this module index.js, whose name is not defined, it needs so and so module to perform. So once you add that module, you need to pass it to the callback function, right? And this is nothing, simple JavaScript. I am saying, since text is already there, I am creating this object and I am setting the parameter text, because this is how you set the text property, right? How do I know that? Does it have any text property? I know from I will say sap.m.text. I know from this documentation that text has a property. It determines the text to be displayed. So I did add this text, and I say typical HTML CSS. I place it at this ID. Where is this ID? We have defined this ID. So now I will remove this. Ideally, whatever is there is returned and it shall be placed here, right, inside this. Let me now just reload. So now you see that we don't have any of the alert being called, because we don't have any alert, and this is being loaded. Let's open a debugger, not here. Let's open a debugger here, and index.js, I place a breakpoint here, I just reload, right? So now you see this is being called, right? And let me make it as pick one. So now this is being called, and if you look at the call stack, you see this promise. It is all promises. These controls are returned via promises. So promise is resolved, then you call this. You don't need to go into this. I just wanted to show you that this is how those promises and all being used here, right? And even if you look at this text is nothing. If I just go to console, right? So what is text? So text is nothing but a function, right? And that function has different attributes, which we saw it here, right? Text, and then we placed it. Okay, so pretty simple. That is how we are doing it. But then you might be thinking, Nabir, we spend time in XML and JSON. Where is that XML, right? We'll come to that. We'll come to that now. So now, right now, what is happening is, as soon as this index.html gets loaded, it loads this file. It files basically return this. Now this way of declaring your module dependency is known as asynchronous module definition. It is not exactly the same. SAP has given its own flavor, but primarily it is kind of the same principle that follow. You define your dependency, then your first parameter is the name, whatever is the name you want to have for this module, then array of basically different dependencies, then whatever you want to call and return. The first and fourth are optional. Okay, now let's bring that flavor of where we move this thing into, because we are going to follow an MVC architecture. MVC architecture is modal view controller. So we'll look at view and controller today. I'll take another 5-10 minutes, not much. So let's create a folder. Let's try to structure this thing. This is very crude. So maybe we say we create a folder view, okay, and then we basically create an file which is app.view.xml. So you need to remember that whenever you create this view, any view, I'm trying to segregate my view into one place, controller into another, and then I will explain what is modal view controller also. But basically important is to understand the structure of our app, right? So I want that this looks crude here. This one has to be moved into XML, right? So what I will do is, let me move this along with something else also. Okay, now we'll spend some time here, don't worry. We'll spend a good amount of time here so that you understand what is happening, right? And let me then change one more thing and then I get back. Okay, so now what I have done is, I have moved my view code, which is the text and along with other fields, to app view XML. But how will it gets created? So instead of this, right? What I do is I go here and say, do I have anything related to XML? Yes, we have, right? So we have this XML view. So if you look here, sap.ui core MVC XML view, because I want to create this XML view programmatically as of now. Tomorrow in our next session on Thursday, we'll more simplify this thing. Okay, so all I say is add, I want to load this module sap/ui/core/MVC XML view. It is coming from this place, dot replace dot with slash, added a dependency here, and then all I say is call this view, right? Search.po, this search.po is referring to dot slash, right, which is in current folder, and then inside that you go to view folder. Inside it there's a file name app, so inside this you go to view folder, inside it you have an app, right? And you see this is a promise, so this create returns us a promise, and that promise, then once it is returned, we then place whatever is returned in the content. So let's just look at this XML view create method. So there is a method create. This is a create method, right? And if you look at here, it returns a promise. How I was always used to wonder, how do I know that what will it returns? And I used to just search and find and all, but I never came here to understand, okay, this method will return me a promise. That is why you have a then, and once it returns a promise, right, and inside that promise it is returning nothing but a view, SAPUI5 core MVC XML view, and that is what I am just placing that view at certain same ID, right? Now let's look at the XML view, which is very important. So I've changed it a bit. Okay, so let's forget this path. This one you don't need to think about as of now. Important for you is to understand this. So now these are tags which we saw, nothing new, right? But this MVC is a namespace. So in the same way, when I was using sap.m library, text library, I was defining here the dependency, right? In same way, you have to define it in our XML. So you say, I want to use which library? Because mine is a mobile one, this main library. So I will use sap.m, and by default, there is no namespace. It is a default namespace because there is no name. And I want to use an additional library MVC inside which we have a view, right? So I will say we will call it by MVC, and then I'm creating another one which is HTML. You just forget about this as of now. So basically I'm saying that we will use sap.m library from this, and we will use these two libraries. In case I'm using control from sap.m, I can directly refer it, right? And in case I'm using any control from MVC library, I will use MVC as a prefix. So that is why you see MVC colon then view, right? And inside it you see there is nothing fancy. All I have is a text input. I have used now input and text. There are two elements, right? So now let's just save it, right? And just to refresh, now I see there are 4 input fields which have come. So one is a purchase order, another is a type, another is a plant, company code. This is how we want our app to be, right? So now I hope this is clear, because this is very important. So this is nothing, I'm defining a namespace. This is a default one because it doesn't have any colon and name. This is another one. Namespace is you want to refer by a short name to a long library. So since I'm using MVC control, I am using MVC namespace. For M it is default one, and then I have added these field. This blue color white is coming. I wanted to showcase to you guys that we can have use the CSS which you have learned here also. For example, I have assigned class a blue text, and this class I have defined using this namespace which is HTML style blue text color blue. I hope this is clear. So now since this is done, maybe let's add a button also to search. Okay, so I'll go here, I'll just say button, right? Now what I'm trying to demonstrate here is we are making that search PO app, but then we are trying to explain is that okay, we have separated the view, but that is also linked to the controller. Now what is a controller, what is a view, what is a model, I will explain in another, give me 1 second. So basically I have added a button which text is search. How do I know text? I go again here, right, and I say or I can just simply say button. Button is at many places. I am using sap.m.button. I go to its properties. You can give icon also, you can give text, right? And then there are events. So everything press, right? Once you press, right? So press is an event. That is why I've said once you press it, I need to call this function. Now where is this defined, right? It is defined as of now inside my this one controller. I'll define it here. So basically it is not defined as of now. Let me define it, because once I define it, then we will be able to use it. Okay, so now what we will do is let's first create a controller folder. I'll say controller. Okay, oh, not file, 1 second. Let's just create a new folder, and I say controller. Yeah, now we have, and then inside it I can create a new file, which is, I could have used a short name also, but I think it makes more sense to me. And then I say this is my controller. Okay, and I think I will load this also, and okay, now let's me do a refresh and then I explain things. So now what I did was two things. First, before I jump, then me and Parek requesting, Parek, you can come back and you can watch the recording at the same place. It will be available. So now what I have done till now is we have just added those text, but now I have added a button. Right now, before that, let me just explain our last topic, which is modal view controller. So view is something which you see here, right? Whenever you interact with it, it gives instruction to the controller, which we will look at. Controller is nothing where you'll have your JavaScript code, right? And that controller will interact with your database, your model. Your model contains the data, which we'll look at in next session. So basically there are three parts: model, view, controller. These all interact with each other. So for now, for the current demo, it is only the view and the controller which is interacting. Okay, so I did two things here. I added a button with text as search, press as dot on search PO, and I added a controller name that, okay, my controller is search.po, which refers to this index.html. Okay, I'm here. Then inside it, I say go to controller folder. Inside it, there is app file. Okay, controller folder, there is an app file. Okay, very good. Now this dot means this method is available in the related controller, not in the, it will go and search everywhere. It will not go, it will just be available in this controller. So I go to this controller, we are loading this, right? We are loading this controller class, we are extending it, the same name we have provided, and then I define the method on search PO. For the timing, I just say alert searching POs. While calling the method, we put dot. Yeah, so as explained, Saurabh, that this dot is basically, because imagine an app which will have n number of controllers, n number of JavaScript, different files, libraries, right? So how do I know that this thing lies where, whether it lies in a global file or it lies in a related to a controller file? So this dot says that this function is defined in this controller, the related one. So that is where I have defined this controller, and I say alert searching POs, nothing special. So if I just say search, it says searching POs, right? Now maybe let's enhance this. Maybe I don't like this alert. This alert is nothing. I want something better, which is like, let's go to sample and let's search for message toast. Yeah, this is something I like. We want something beautiful which comes up, right? For example, if I say show message, yeah, this message comes up. And if I want to see the code, you can go ahead and see that, okay, it has loaded this toast, right? And then all I need to do is basically show this method. Simple. So I'll just copy paste this stuff only. I'll not basically we can use this stuff only. So what we'll do is, let's load this class Mrs. Toast. We add this as a dependency, right? And since now it is available, all I need to do is Mrs. Toast dot show. Right, and then if I reload it, search, you see this message. Which is most prefer view? We can use like JSON view, XML view. Very good question. In fact, in the flow I forgot to tell you that we have XML is one type, then we have JavaScript view, so you can declare it in JavaScript. The one which I declared like using new syntax was more likely a JavaScript view. Then you can have JSON and then HTML. XML is the most preferred one and the recommended one, Sanjay. So always use that. So now this is view is interacting with this controller. Now this controller will talk to our backend data, right? And it will hold that model data, and then controller, model and view will interact together. So now I think after the very hanky start where our setup, I have to change the location, it worked. So we are done with our first session, and before I wrap up, so what I would do is I will send you the step-by-step instructions, how do we create this, right? And then additionally you will have to do 3-4 more things so that you also practice. And for everyone who has joined here, I would request you that make sure you have joined our Discord server, because association and aggregation, please provide. Okay, Mohammed, so basically, for example, this view has different controls inside it, right? These are the children's, right? Now if in case of aggregation, if you destroy this view, these controls also get destroyed, right? And in case, for example, this text is linked to this text by an ID or something, that is an association. And in case you destroy text, input will not get destroyed. So association is like purchase order header to items, right? And to purchase order partners or to purchase order partners, right? If you delete a purchase order, partners will not get deleted, the partner master data, right? But if you delete the purchase order items will get deleted, right? So purchase order items are the aggregations, and those master data of partners, what do you call it as material, is like an association. So in the same way, any nested control children's is like aggregation, and anything which is linked by an ID is more likely an association. So now we are done with our first session, and I hope you understood that. In case you have doubts, make sure you ask them on Discord. Everyone is there to help you out. And in case you have any query, feel free to reach out to us through all the mediums. We'll be happy to help. I would request everyone to make sure whatever assignment we'll send an email, make sure you complete it before you attend the next class, because in the next class, it's not a class here, it's a community discussion where I also learn and you also learn, everyone learn. We will talk about model, we'll dig into different kinds of model, then slowly we'll dig into binding, and then slowly we'll go towards routing. So next 3-4 sessions, this is what we plan to do. So till then, I'll say thank you for joining, and keep sharing, keep learning, stay safe, bye bye.